What's going on, everybody? It's Rod with Pow Group. Welcome back on The Pursuit of Wealth, your home for MJ stocks, crypto assets, news, and interviews. Also home to the best MJ community. It's Friday. Happy Friday. Hope you're doing awesome. It is June 28th. The month is just rolling along. Hard to believe it's almost July 1st here in Canada. A long weekend here, so Canada Day on Monday, and then Independence Day, July 4th, as well for our neighbors down to the south. So going to be a short week next week, but wanted to come on, do an update, got an absolute banger video for you today. We're going to get started here in about a minute or so. It was a bit of another last minute live stream, so we'll give it another 30 seconds to a minute for people to jump on. And as you're joining, make sure to let us know where you're tuning in from. There's usually a bit of a lag on YouTube whenever I start these streams, and I see there's dozens of people rolling in now. So welcome. Make sure to smash the like as you roll in. Helps get the video out to as many people as possible. We got an absolute banger of a video here today. We're going to be discussing RFK Jr., the potential of him replacing Biden. He's all for legalizing MJ. He's pro-crypto. Everything that we would wanted to see yesterday had basically come out of this guy's mouth today a few hours ago, and I've got an absolute banger video of him and an update on MJ legalization in the US. Like I said, you're not going to want to miss this one. This is it's going to be an absolute banger. So just sit tight. We'll get started here in about 10 to 15 seconds. All right, going to get started with the live stream here. See, we have quite a few people joining the live stream. Welcome. Again, it's Rod with Pow Group. Welcome back on The Pursuit of Wealth. Happy Friday. It's June 28th. In this video, we're going to be doing a follow-up video to yesterday's live stream, which last night was an absolute gong show. Painful to watch on both sides. I'm from Canada, so I could care less. Like I said in yesterday's stream, I pretty much hate all politics. So I thought they were both terrible candidates. And then today, we had some massive news today with regards to a replacement of Biden, which tons of people were saying that, it wasn't fair to Biden. Like, his family shouldn't have let him go out there at the state that he was in. And just crazy to think about, whenever the debate happened in 2020 and 2021, I guess, to where he is now. It's amazing what 4 years can do, especially when you're at that age. But yeah, that was definitely not the outcome that the Dems wanted, and we could potentially see a replacement of Biden. There's all talks. They were scrambling afterwards. They even called it a train wreck. I'm curious to hear what everybody else thinks, but, I watched it. They didn't mention MJ as I expected. I thought they would mention crypto at least, but there was other pressing issues. Like they mentioned January 6th a few times, and he just kept deflecting and going back to like Afghanistan. So, there was some really important issues, and they were deflecting that. So I can't imagine, even if they asked them anything about crypto, anything about MJ, they would have just, and they did mention the opioid crisis and things like that, fentanyl, and, they just kind of deflected it, and they went back on attacking each other. So at the end of the day, it wasn't, they didn't mention MJ. Obviously, we're an MJ-centric channel, but at the end of the day, we didn't get what we wanted. And they didn't mention crypto at all, but I did mention that it was going to be another debate in a few months. So it was an early one. And in my opinion, I think this was just to set the stage that, maybe there was a comment, somebody made a comment in my comment section on YouTube, and I actually listened to that afterwards. But one of the gentlemen, I think it was, afterwards, one of the analysts said, we're in a scenario where one person should not be president and the other one cannot be a president. So I found that pretty funny. But before we get to it, make sure to smash the like. It helps support me in the channel. It doesn't cost you anything. If you're new, you can subscribe, tick the bell, all that good stuff. You'll be notified on any future videos or when I go live, such as these. And also, I am not a financial advisor. This is for entertainment purposes only. You should never buy or sell anything based on anything that I say or write. As I mentioned, it's a long weekend. So for those of you in Canada, hope you have a fantastic weekend with your family. I'm going to be spending my Canada Day with some friends, my partner and my daughter, and we're going to be watching the fireworks here from a balcony with the best view in Edmonton. You can also follow us over on X, formerly Twitter. The handle for that is @GroupPow. Going to be using that as my platform of choice going forward. So Chris Cuomo suggests that RFK Jr. should replace freefall Biden after the debate. Democrats are looking for somebody. So, there's, Kamala Harris. Could there be, could RFK Jr. Be in the running. We'll see what happens, but I think that would make a lot of sense. And to be honest, when I hear this guy speak, he makes more sense than anybody. And it seems like he's more about the American people. And again, I'm Canadian, so I'm not trying to get political, but just from an unbiased point of view, I can't even vote for anybody. But if I posted earlier on X, if I could vote, he'd have my vote. So there's this interview here with The Hill, and you're going to want to see this. This is an absolute banger of a video, and I've got 3 different excerpts of that video. I'm not going to play the whole thing, but we'll get to that here in just a moment. And then there was also this banger of a article that came out today. U.S. House Democrats introduced bill to federally legalize MJ. And then this has to do with the MORE Act, aiming to decriminalize and deschedule MJ, provide expungements, and reinvest in those adversely impacted by the drug war. So the article was originally published on September 21st, 2023, and most recently updated today, June 28th, 2024, to reflect additional co-sponsors of the bill. So I'll get to that at the end. I'm going to slide that to the end because it is kind of lengthy. And if people want me to go through the details on that, let me know, and I can do that at the end. Or else I'll just go through a really quick version of it, TLDR. And then also let me know your thoughts and opinions on the debate last night. I know a lot of people commented on my video from yesterday with their thoughts on it, but it was interesting. And then, speaking of interesting, just think of all of the stars aligning, right? Top United Nations health official calls on countries to replace war on drugs with alternative regulatory approaches. That was back on June 24th. We know that Germany's Pillar 2 is already being worked on and could be here far sooner than expected. So it's almost like they have their talking points, they have their agendas, and it's like the whole global stage right now is trying to advance MJ reform, and it's happening at the global scale. But I think we're going to see more laws, and we have the MICA coming into play here at the beginning of July. We're probably going to see stablecoin legislation in the US, and we're probably going to see crypto be at the forefront here, but then MJ should be next in line. We also have Czechia unveiling MJ legalization plan without legal market. We have Switzerland launching their largest yet adult use MJ pilot trial. South Africa legalized MJ for personal use. So as you can see, the writing is on the wall. It's happening right in front of our eyes. This is only going to ever happen once. And just imagine, the U.S. is never first and they're never last. But don't worry, we'll get there. And it's just so great to see and reassuring, and just kind of a breath of fresh air that, this person here, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., he could potentially be the next president, in my opinion. I think there's a real chance. Like I said, this guy, just when he speaks, his voice is a little raspy. Sometimes it's kind of hard to make him out, but I put in the captions here so that if it is difficult to hear, you can hear him. So you got to listen to this. He talks about legalizing MJ. He talks about blockchain and AI. I think, maybe even AI created blockchain, the whole consensus mechanism and everything. Who knows? Maybe AI was, maybe Satoshi was AI, right? And then a bunch of people like, Arthur Brito and who else? David Schwartz, kind of took the reins after that. But maybe AI created crypto and Bitcoin. That's possible. And I think so. And I agree with him that crypto and AI are going to be our ticket out of this mess and the debt that the U.S. has created, right? And the deficit that they have. So I'm going to play these videos, and I'll try not to get too excited because, we don't want to be let down, but I'm really starting to think that there's some teeth behind this. So check out this first clip here. This one is on MJ and just, the war on drugs and how it's affecting people.
In a similar vein, during your closing remarks last night at your debate on X, you talked about the lack of pride that young people have in this country. And we've also seen that the youth mental health crisis has been incredibly exacerbated over the past 5 to 10 years. And yet our country prescribes more SSRIs and anti-anxiety medications than ever. How would an RFK Jr. presidency approach the youth mental health crisis without relying on big pharma to just prescribe more drugs?
Yeah, my Peace Corps program or Moonshot program is going to be a series of wellness farms where kids can go, where there'll be no screens, no social media, no computers, where kids can go and learn the trades. The trades are the one jobs that are going to be immune from AI for the longest. People are always going to need a plumber to walk up your stairs for many years until they have robots doing it. If you need to fix your toilet or if you have an electric outage, somebody's got to crawl into your crawl space. AI is going to eliminate a lot of crime, but we're not teaching the trades anymore, and the federal government is not providing money. They'll pay for you to go to college, give you loans to go to college, but not to a 2-year or 3-year trade school, and we need to change that. But I'm going to I'm going to have these farms where people will grow organic food so that we can have, part of the problem with the mental health crisis is we're mass poisoning this whole generation of kids. We have 1,000 ingredients in processed foods in this country that are illegal in Europe. We're destroying the soils. We're destroying the environment. We're destroying the health of our kids. When my uncle was president, 6% of Americans had chronic disease. Today, 60% do. And the cost has risen from about 6% of our GDP to almost 19%. And it's destroying our country in so many ways. But most of all, it's destroying the morale, the mental health of our kids. And part of that is social media. There's so many, it's so difficult to be a kid today. And I have 7 children, and I see the pressures they're under. And they're feeling dispossessed.
And I really like that he kind of related to the people as well by just saying, I have seven children, and he sees the struggles that's going on, and it's speaking to the people. One thing that really stood out to me as well.
They're feeling alienated. They're feeling disconnected from community, from society. They're atomized. They're fragmented. And we have to go out as a nation and reclaim these children. We have to connect them to community again, to connect them to purpose, connect them to pride and hope. And that's what I'm going to do with these healing farms. I talked about it last night. I'm going to legalize marijuana federally. It's now legal in the state. I'm going to move it off Schedule 1 because even though most states now legalize marijuana, the federal government cannot collect taxes on them because it's Schedule 1 federally. I'm going to change that so the feds can start collecting taxes. That'll raise $8.5 billion. I'm going to use that money to start healing farms in rural communities all over this country. The biggest industry today in rural America is prisons, and I'm going to change that. I'm going to make it so we're going to have these healing farms. A lot of the people who are in prisons are nonviolent drug crimes. I'm going to move out into these camps, and you can stay there for free until you're healed, till you're ready to leave, and you're going to leave with a trade and a job. And you're right, the addiction, we have an illegal drug addiction in this country. We also have an addiction to these psychiatric drugs that are very, very little understood and may not be very effective. 120 million SRI prescriptions last year, 120 million benzo prescriptions. And then, of course, there's 120 million Adderall prescriptions because our kids all have ADHD now.
So he speaks a lot of truth, and how many deaths have happened from MJ, the plant medicine of the future, big fat zero, right? So that's something that we have to keep in mind. And he does have some closing remarks that I'll bring up there in just a moment. But obviously there's tons of studies out saying that MJ is way more safer than tobacco. I don't think any of us ever doubted that for a second. One kills over 400,000 people a year, and the other one kills 0. So this one's on blockchain and AI and how we got here with regards to the deficit. And you can see the transcript here as well.
Almost half the debt was run up by these two presidents. In fact, President Trump came into office promising that he was going to balance the budget, and he ran up an $8 trillion debt. He spent more money than every president in the United States history combined, from George Washington to George W. Bush, 283 years of U.S. history. And then President Biden is now on track to beat him. We're adding $1 trillion to the deficit every 90 days. And it's being driven by the war machine, which neither of them can unravel. It's being driven by chronic disease, which they presided over, this explosion of chronic disease, which is now absorbing 5 times our military budget, $4.3 trillion a year. That's our biggest cost. And neither of them has the capacity to do it. And then, we could eliminate tremendous amounts of waste in government using AI, using blockchain, but you never hear either of these candidates talking about those things. They're about to change all of our lives. They offer tremendous potential for our country. They're the path out of the debt. We need a new industry because we can't cut our way out of this debt. We have to grow our way out of it. We have to grow GDP. And that new industry has the best potential as AI and also blockchain. But we're driving those out of the country, and neither of these candidates ever talk about either the peril or the potential of those new technologies.
And something that, we have yet to really see is how AI is going to affect MJ, right? We know everybody's different, and there's so many compounds, right? There's hundreds. We don't know how it affects people. Everybody's different. People react to different compounds. People react to different strains. And with the use of artificial intelligence, we can potentially see, massive breakthroughs in science. And, with clinical studies and research and, the removal of those barriers by, descheduling, rescheduling, it's only going to get better from here. And one thing that I think that, this is so timely, because everybody that I've seen in the crypto world, in the MJ world, they're all one issue voters. If one of those people last night in the debate would have said, we're pro MJ, you would have had the whole MJ industry basically at their back, right? They would have supported them, right? One issue voters. If one of the debate, if one of those sides of the aisle last night during the debate would have said, we're pro crypto and start talking about crypto, then everybody would have had their back, right? And here we are as MJ enthusiasts, as crypto enthusiasts, and we were let down. Not one single mention of it. And not that, there wasn't other important issues, because there seriously was, right? Inflation, and you got abortion, and I shouldn't even start naming things. But, there's some, the war going on around the world and the threat of World War III. These are big, big issues, right? But like he said, AI and blockchain and medicine of the future can take us out of this mess that we're in, right? And taxing these big corporations and the wealthy. But like I said, to see this is just a huge breath of fresh air and huge sigh of relief that, this person, RFK, could potentially be replacing Biden. And if he does, he's pro MJ and he's pro crypto. So everybody that was, let down that we didn't hear about crypto last night, we didn't hear about MJ, not a single word about either. Here we are today, and we're getting exactly what we wanted. And like I said, if I was American and I wasn't Canadian, he'd have my vote by a landslide. So, let's just close out here with his closing remarks.
What is your pitch this morning to both Biden voters and Trump voters, to the person who supported Biden but watched what they saw last night and can't imagine voting to give that person 4 more years in office? What's your pitch to that person? And then what is your pitch to the Trump voter to win them over to the RFK Jr. camp?
Look, I'm already beating President Trump and President Biden among young people. I'm also beating them among independent voters, which is the largest voting demographic for the first time in American history this election year. Self-identified independents are about 43% of American voters versus 27% Democrat, 27% Republican. I have the greatest favorability rating of Trump and President Trump and President Biden. That means people would prefer to vote for me, but they're not going to vote for me, many of those Trump and Biden supporters, because they're scared that the other guy will then win. So they're voting out of fear. And, what I need to do over the next 4 months, Robbie, is to convince Americans that they can take a risk and vote out of hope, vote out of inspiration, vote out of faith in their future and pride in their country, rather than vote out of fear. FDR made this, this tremendous urging to Americans that the only thing we have to fear is fear itself. And that was very wise. And if we succumb to fear, we're going to get more of the same. What's going to happen if President Biden or President Trump gets reelected. We're going to have more of the same. We're going to have more division, more vitriol, more anger, more debt, more wars, more chronic disease, and the continued diminution of hope in our country. And I'm offering something different. If I get elected, everything's going to change. Everything's going to change. And if people want that, if people want their America back, they should vote for me.
All right. So again, I'm Canadian. I can't vote even if I wanted to. And I am the most least political person on planet Earth. But what I support is common sense, just absolute 100% honesty. And this guy comes to me as, he tells me that, this is what you would want in a president, in my opinion. If he were trying to lead here for Canada, I'd be like, dude, you got my vote. Like that guy, I'm a huge advocate for common sense, and he seems genuine. He seems real. Like this guy needs to be president, in my opinion. And I really don't care if anybody gets offended by this. If you're a supporter of either one of these people from last night's debate, power to you. I wish you the best in your voting, and I hope you get what you want. But personally, I wouldn't vote for either of them. Like I said yesterday, I think they're both terrible. I think that, the people, they need to be united. We need to work together now more than ever. And this guy just seems like he has a great head on his shoulders. I've been saying that for at least over a year now. And, I thought, maybe he fell by the wayside. But as of right now, he's making a huge comeback by the looks of it. And, based on that crap show that we saw last night, his chances are looking really, really good. And like I said, everybody, all these one issue voters, all super disappointed that we didn't hear anything about crypto, didn't hear anything about medicine of the future. And then the next day, this guy comes out and says he's going to legalize and he's going to use AI and blockchain to get us out of this rut, and talks about private prisons. And so this guy he listens, he gets it, he knows what the people want, and he seems to be for the people. And you know what? That, to me, in my books, is the person you want running a country. 1,000%. Like, that guy, kudos to him. Very, very impressed with that, and I couldn't wait to do this video today. So, curious what everybody else has to say about that, but, again, try not to get political, but speaking of policy and, the U.S., I did want to go through this real quickly here. So again, this was just an update of this article. So it was from September 21, 2023, and the most recent update, June 28, 2024, was to reflect additional co-sponsors of the bill. And this has to do with the federal legalization of MJ. So Republican Jerry Nadler, District of New York, top Democrat in the U.S. Rep Jerry Nadler, District of New York, and top Democrat in the U.S. House Judiciary Committee, introduced the MJ Opportunity Reinvestment and Expungement MORE Act on September 20th. The legislation intends to legalize MJ at the federal level through decontrolling and decriminalizing the plant, which we know Germany just did. Canada did it as well by removing it from the narcotics list, as well as provide expungements for certain MJ offenses and create reinvestment opportunities for those adversely impacted by a prohibition. And again, as we know, the U.S. is never first and they're never last. Canada, United Nations calling on officials in top countries to replace the war on drugs. You got Germany, Pillar 2 already being worked on, could happen far sooner than expected. You got the Czech Republic, you got Switzerland, you got South Africa, right? So it's happening. They're never first and they're never last. They're certainly not first and they certainly won't be last. So things are trending in the right direction, in my opinion. And then also Reps Earl Blumenauer of Oregon, Barbara Lee of California. We also have Sheila Jackson Lee. You've got out of Texas, you got Nadia Velasquez out of New York, joined Nadler on September 20th introduction. It's no secret that our federal MJ laws are outdated and out of touch, said Lee, who co-chairs the Congressional MJ Caucus. MJ is now a multi-billion-dollar industry, and yet Congress continues to lag behind the 38 states that have legalized either adult use or medical, and 24 have legalized at the adult use level. But we can't just stop at decriminalization. I am so proud to co-lead a bill that represents the most progressive, comprehensive piece of MJ legislation in U.S. history. Not only would it decriminalize MJ, it would expunge MJ convictions and reinvest in communities, especially black communities and those affected by the war on drugs, and bring the government into the 21st century. Notably, and like the U.S. is lagging on crypto as well. If you look at the MiCA regulations and things that are going on around the world, like it's just like they're light years ahead, right? And it's just they're never first, they're never last, but that's by design, right? It was kind of similar during the whole C-19 thing as well. Notably, the bill was filed with 33 original co-sponsors in the House and another 13 representatives adding their names to the bill the next day, all of whom are Democrats, which is indicative of the legislation's partisan history. Previous versions of the MORE Act have passed the U.S. House twice before, most recently in a 220 to 204 vote that fell almost entirely along party lines in April of 2022. And here's the update. Another 45 Democratic representatives have signed on as a co-sponsor for a total of 91 as of June 27th, 2024. So 91 total. It is a long time past federal government to recognize legalization, and it's been a resounding success. In addition to ending federal prohibition of MJ, the MORE Act intends to impose a federal tax on MJ sales starting at 5% for the first 2 years and increasing to 8%. And I'm pretty sure this is what happened with tobacco. And there's been talks in Canada that they're going to be tabling, basically an improvement to excise tax here, where they would lower the amount of excise taxes that licensed producers have to pay. And that's not a coincidence that we're seeing rescheduling and potential descheduling and the removal of 280E at the same time, right? I always said that it's probably going to be, they're probably going to cut excise taxes on MJ once 280E goes away, because it's nothing's a coincidence. It's all planned, right? Especially when it comes to, politics and finance and whatnot. So this makes a whole lot of sense. I think they did the same thing with tobacco, where they imposed a tax and then they raised it over time. So this makes sense. And I think, Canada should adopt that sort of policy as well, where you cut it back, get rid of the illicit market, right? and then make it easier, make it cheaper. It'll be cheaper for the consumer as well because they won't be charging as much tax. They can drop the prices, right? They can have better margins. And then, you're not seeing creditor protection, bankruptcy filings left, right, center, right? So it's good for the whole industry. Under the bill, the MJ tax revenue would go to an opportunity trust fund from which 60% would go to the U.S. Attorney General's office to carry out portions of the Omnibus Crime Control and Safe Streets Act of 1968. So they talk about, in addition, the bill would authorize the appropriation of $10 million of the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration to conduct studies and technologies on methods for law enforcement to use to determine whether they're impaired by MJ. I've been saying for a while now that's going to be an interesting topic and rollout. Like, how are they really going to do that, especially when people need it for medicine purposes, right? Unless you have a medical card or something like that, maybe you're exempt, but we'll see what happens. The MORE Act also aims to direct National Institute of Occupational Safety and Health to conduct a study on the impact of legalization in the workplace and using states that have already legalized the adult use of MJ at the adult use as a guide. And Canada, right? Talk to us. We probably have something to say too. So the bill also directs the Department of Education to conduct a study on, just read that one, sorry, from the House Democrats September 22nd press release. Decriminalizes MJ at the federal level by removing the substance from the Controlled Substances Act. This applies retroactively. So I'm going to put this in the description as well. You can go through the entire list of it. But I do want to keep this video relatively short because, it's a banger video and I want to get this out to as many people as possible. And when we get too long, people tend not to watch it. So I want to try to keep it around 30 minutes. So putting this link again in the description, you can see that MJ Business Times article source there. Taking a look at MSOS on the day today, I mentioned that if we didn't hear MJ in the debate last night, we were probably going to see MJ sell off. And that's exactly what we got. We started daily consolidation here on MSOS. We had a daily bear flag target of 686. We hit 688 to perfection, played out. So again, this is the benefit of technical analysis. Now we're gearing up for an EMA 12 and 26 bull cross on the daily. And I was looking at this pattern here when we were forming the head as the most likely scenario in IHS and inverse head and shoulders, coming off of daily oversold, daily EMA 12 and 26 bull cross. Here we are forming the right shoulder. We did pull back all the way to 714. So we're not as confident in this IHS now, but we did have a lower wick there. So if we ignore that lower wick, we want to see us rebound into next week in a hurry. In order to save this. But if we were to drop any lower than 714, I think that's going to negate it. But assuming we hold the low there of the day today where we closed. So we closed the day at 733. So I want to see us, I want to see us continue to hold that support into next week. Obviously closed in Canada on Monday, but the U.S. markets will be open. U.S. markets will be closed on July 4th. But I want to see us hold that low of where we closed today next week. If we do dip below it by a little bit, not too worried, but I want to see us hold the low and then come back up. More than likely going to be a daily inside bar on Monday and tightening range. And then if we come back up and break resistance there at 820, that would confirm the IHS. And if you take your measured move from the head to the neckline, it's saying we could be targeting about 975. So far this is playing out to a T. On the 5-minute time frame, I'll just reset this chart here. You can see into the end of the day, it was just an absolute bloodbath. So if we take a look at MSOS on the weekly time frame as well, actually before I show that, on the daily time frame, we're gearing up for a death cross. So we could come back to around, I mentioned just north of $8, and then come down, form a daily higher low and the right shoulder in that IHS. But we could potentially see a death cross. So this isn't exactly what we want to see here. The 50-day above the 200-day moving average, the shorter term and the longer term, when those cross on the daily, it's a death cross. Generally means more downside. But one thing we're looking at here is the stochastic is gearing up for a bull cross, which usually the stochastic moves first. Then we get a move above the 10-week moving average or below, depending on the direction that we're going. And then the MACD follows. So as of right now, we're gearing up for a bull cross here on the stochastic, which is great to see that. And then also July 22nd, the end of the comment period as well. It's very, very positive. And then something that we're very close to seeing here is a 50 and a 100 weekly bull cross. So the weekly moving averages, the 50 weeklies at 773 and the 100s at 795. They're very close to crossing, which would be the first time in history. And again, when the shorter term's below the longer term and they cross, that's bullish. If the 50 was up here and the 100 was down here and they crossed, that would be bearish because the shorter term's above the longer term. So this is looking really, really good. Like I said, I think July, August is when we're going to really kick into high gear, no pun intended. And it could have a lot to do with this man here. And the fact that we could potentially see pro MJ, pro crypto. Man, I'm excited. I'm going to say a prayer tonight that this man goes in the running, because I just can't believe how awesome it would be, not just from my own perspective and MJ, but like the people. This guy really gets it, in my opinion. He's got this wit. He has his wits about him. He has common sense. He cares about people. He has common sense policy. It seems like pretty much every single thing on all the policies, all the substance that he has given, it's just very sound and logical and commonsensical. Like everything that he has said to this, like there's virtually nothing that I disagreed with what he said. So he even talked about prisons and all these huge controversial topics and huge issues that we need to get to the bottom of, right? And talked about big corporations and things like that, and these pharmaceutical companies, and like this guy gets it. Get with the program. This guy is the program, right? So I'm super excited and impressed with this gentleman, RFK Jr. I wish you the best. So what is Trump's position on MJ? To be honest, it's been so long since I even heard him say the word MJ. So I assume that he's probably kind of neutral, if not maybe a little bit against it. But a little bit more conservative. We'll see. But he seems to be really backing crypto. He didn't have a great stance on crypto. He said, I like currency and it's called the dollar, right? And now he loves crypto because he figured out a way how to make money off his NFTs, and he figured out a way to make money off it, and go figure, he loves it now, right? But then used it as a way to sway voters, younger voters specifically, and just voters in general, these one-issue voters. And MJ is very similar, right? Same demographic, same younger type of audience, and one-issue voters. So I think, RFK Jr., if he comes in here swinging with crypto and MJ at his back, man, it's going to be a landslide. And then the other candidate, whoever it is going to have to back crypto and MJ as well. Or it's just going to be, like I said, it'd just be a political death sentence otherwise. But yeah, if you embrace them both, it's a political success, in my opinion. He likes states' rights instead of federal mandate, I think. Yeah, and that's exactly what it said in here too, right? Let me just bring it up here again. So, I don't know if you've seen some of the videos that I shown, but there's bills to ban Congress from owning stocks and crypto and everything like that. Obviously, we know that policymakers, people that are crafting laws should not, they have all kinds of insider information. They should not be buying stocks and crypto, right? Any kind of equities or anything like that, right? Financial instruments, because they have the highest amount of knowledge. So where was it here? The states. So it was... Let me just see here. I can't remember exactly where it was. But essentially, it's going to leave it up to the states. And like I said, back to my train of thought, that we've been hearing about that a lot lately with regards to, here it is. Decriminalizes MJ at the federal level by removing substance from the Controlled Substances Act. This applies retroactively to prior and pending convictions and enables states to set their own policy. So a lot of these, bills that are coming through about banning congressmen and women from owning stocks and crypto, etc. They've been talking about leaving, in one of the videos, I can't remember exactly that I showed, but they talked about banning them. Obviously, that's a great thing. And then they also talked about how we need to get back to more state law, right? There's three branches of government, right? There's the courts, the judicial system, there's the legislative branch, which is Congress, and then there's the executive branch, which is the White House, right? So they want to be focusing more on the states, on the state, regulation, legislative branch, right? Versus the courts and the executive branch, right? And in my opinion, that just makes sense, right? That's the most of the like there's houses, there's senates, there's 50 states, right? You can get a way more accurate idea of what people want and do it in a much more controlled way versus an all or nothing thing. And then like I said in this article, right? 38 states have somehow legalized on some level adult use or medical. And then 24 already, maybe even 25, 26 coming up soon here with Florida and everything, are going to legalize at the adult use level. So that's literally, like 3/4 of the U.S. legalized on some level. And then if we get, Florida, that's half the U.S. legalized at the adult use level, right? So just let the states speak for themselves, and then eventually, we'll get over it. But yeah, I think we need to get back way I think we need to get way back to supporting state law, right? And letting the states decide on a lot of these issues and, just kind of remove themselves from the situation. And I think that's going to be great. I think that's a really sensible approach. I think Nancy Mace had a similar thing as well. There's also the CAOA. There's a lot of different bills and legislation that is potentially coming down the pipeline here. But at the end of the day, we need the man or woman, sitting in the White House, whichever it's going to be. And wouldn't that be something if we got the first woman in the White House? But, we need, from the top down, we need support, right? And we need support for medicine of the future. We need support for the new financial system of the future, and getting rid of all these huge corporations that we know that 1% of the world, these corporations, they control majority of the money, right? And they're just destroying the middle class and the rest, right? So this is huge. And in my opinion, if we can get RFK Jr. in there, it's going to be one fun end of the year leading into November. But yeah, I think that's correct, Matthew. But thanks, Humberto, for the question, and thanks for that, Matthew. He is for medical MJ rights for all. Yeah, exactly. So, I wouldn't think that he would be pro adult use, but as long as we leave it up to the states, I think that's the main thing. But obviously we need to get somebody in there from the top level down. Right from the executive branch that supports it, right? Hello, DC Train. What's your main reasoning for supporting AFK? I'm curious. Well, I'm Canadian, so I can't really support him other than provide my own thoughts and opinions. But I just basically went through all of it in this video, so I assumed you probably joined late. But he's pro MJ, he's pro crypto, he's pro getting rid of. He said that the most profitable aspect of the U.S. is prisons. He talked about that. He talked about the deficit. He talked about AI, blockchain, getting us out of that rut. He talked about big pharma. There were so many things. He talked about, like I said, legalizing MJ. He talked about all of these huge issues at hand. And he just seemed to just nail it on every single policy subject. Like his substance was just on point. So that's just basically the high level overview, but I'd highly encourage you to go back and rewatch the stream because it was an absolute banger video. I went through an interview from him from a few hours ago with RFK Jr. as well, and there was also some news with regards to update on federal legalization and the MORE Act. But happy Friday and happy Canada Day and long weekend for those for my fellow Canadians. And I'll definitely be speaking to you before the 4th of July for neighbors to the south. So for those of you in Canada, I hope you have a great long weekend. I like him except for MJ is like the only thing personally disagree with. I like him except for MJ is like the only thing. So you don't want to legalize MJ, DC Train? In my opinion, MJ makes people less productive as a whole. Do you agree or think it's good for society? Okay, yeah, so you don't support MJ. Okay, no, I the studies and research do not show that. Like the whole stoner, lazy mentality, that is not that the studies don't show that. If anything, it makes you more focused and more concentrated. I don't smoke all day, every day. I used to once upon a time, but I never found it really impacted people. Everybody's different too, right? But no, I use it as a type of winding down in the evening. I've also switched to more healthy alternatives like beverages and edibles, things like that. But no, I don't think so. If you look at Canada, we're almost 6 years legal here in Canada, and all by every metric, pretty much all of the studies, like car crashes are going down. Like alcohol numbers are going down. Alcohol is poison, tobacco is poison, MJ's medicine, right? So the data is showing that it's a positive for society, actually. Maybe personally speaking, I feel differently. Yeah, everybody's different, right? And I mean, if you just started smoking yesterday and you smoked way too much, you went on to the really like potent strain, or you did too much edibles. Like, yeah, you want to start low, go slow, and you want to make sure you don't overdo it. So everybody's different too, right? I should look more into the studies. That'd be smart. Absolutely. And there's no shortage of them, and there's going to be more and more that come out. It's way safer than tobacco. It's way safer than alcohol. As we know, alcohol, tobacco are both poison, and MJ is medicine. Tobacco kills over 400,000 people a year, and MJ has killed 0 ever. So that's that. I've been smoking for years. Yeah. No, I definitely feel with you. I definitely feel you, and I'm there right there with you. That, you know, there's some people like that. There's some people that I think just shouldn't smoke it at all. Like by all means should not smoke it at all. But there's, you know, my brother, he can't consume alcohol, right? It just doesn't sit well. It doesn't, his body just rejects it, right? So everybody's different. Doesn't mean we should outlaw alcohol, right? It doesn't matter that you know, there's a small percentage, but, you know, at the end of the day, you need to get away from thinking more of the recreational too, right? This is medicine. This is helping people with epilepsy and anxiety and depression and, you know, all kinds of things, right? It could even cure cancer eventually based on, you know, research that we just haven't really had. And then, like I said earlier in the live stream, you know, with the use of AI, we could see breakthroughs in technology with this plant that there's hundreds of compounds and everybody's different. They react to these compounds differently. They react to this different strains differently. And with the use of AI, like tailoring that to your body and your body type and your, you know, your DNA and your whole physical anatomy, you know, we could potentially see breakthroughs where, you know, through high dosage of, you know, mega high dosages of THC, you know, maybe we could hit some breakthroughs in science and you know, major breakthroughs with regards to disease and whatnot. So agree with 100%. Exactly. So that's, I think people need to, I know we have that like diehard MJ fanatic where, you know, we love the recreational aspect, and it is very good in terms of a healthier alternative compared to tobacco or alcohol or other drugs or, you know, whatever you fancy. But at the end of the day, we need to think of it more of as a plant medicine, not a recreational thing. Right. So I think if we can get more behind the whole medicinal aspect, I think that's what's going to get us across the finish line and really win over the hearts of people. So going in it there, hope you have a fantastic weekend ahead. Again, it's Rod with Pow Group. Thanks again for joining us in the Pursuit of Wealth, and we'll see you again on the next video. Happy Canada Day and happy long weekend and 4th of July for those in the South.